Hey everybody, thanks for checking out statesman.com. Thanks for checking out the Statesman's YouTube page. Thanks for checking out our podcast feed. This is Longhorn Confidential. It's Tuesday. You know what time it is. Set your Golden Kirk Bulls, Danny Davis. Let's go over the Longhorns. Let's go over this football team. We were all in the press box at DKR this past weekend. Texas, they played well on defense, did not play well on offense. 17-10 loss to TCU, which remains the number 4 team in the country. Texas stumbles from 18 to unranked, so a big loss for the Longhorns. They're pretty much out of it in the Big 12 championship chase. They can still weasel their way into Arlington, but a lot needs to happen, including Kansas State losing games we don't think Kansas State's going to lose. So let's just start with the game this past weekend. Texas is now 11-11 under Steve Sarkisian. In some ways, you can say they've made strides because they were 5-7 last year and didn't make a bowl game. But in other ways, you can say this is disappointment, especially after that Alabama game earlier this season. So, Kirk, we'll start with you. 11-11 under Sark. How patient should Texas fans be with Steve Sarkisian? Is it time to start freaking out, or does this take time?
That's what Texas fans do is freak out. That's in their birthright. Uh, they have grown a little bit. I'd say modest progress, maybe one win progress over last year to this point, but it's just kind of the optics. They're just so weird. They look better, they play better for the most part, but Sark talks about complimentary football all the time, and that was not complimentary football. The offense didn't show up. One of the best defensive performances I've ever seen out of a Texas team against a really good team. So, yeah, they're not long for their patience here, and that's probably my biggest issue with Sark is that win the game. I think he needs to be more concerned with winning the game than growing and developing his quarterback, who's kind of been under fire.
Said.
Yeah, we talked about this in the press box. So many times a coach has removed a quarterback to win that game. Lincoln Riley removed Spencer Rattler in back-to-back Red River games against Texas. Oh, you won them both. Dabo Swinney removed DJ Ulaeli in place of Klubnik from Westlake. Nick Saban took out Jalen Hurts in a championship game and brought in a freshman named Tua. So sometimes you just got to win that day and then deal with the fallout afterwards. And I'm not saying that Hudson Card would have rode in on a white horse and delivered a win, but I am saying that he couldn't have done any worse than Quinn Ewers did. Quinn Ewers was awful. I mean, he just didn't play well, and that happens. We all have bad days at the office. And so are you protecting the kids' feelings? Are you worried about what Arch Manning's thinking, standing on the sideline? I don't know. But you didn't do what you needed to do to get that win. And I think changing quarterbacks, I don't know that if it would have worked, but I know it wouldn't have hurt.
You know, I think 11-11 is not ideal, especially when you consider what Texas was under Tom Herman. I know Tom wasn't necessarily the most warm and cuddly personality and rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but they went to 4 bowl games, won all 4, and got to a Big 12 championship game, which and even that may not have been to the Texas standard, but I think that program was in a lot better place under Tom than it is currently under Steve. But he has the right to run his program the way he wants to run it, and maybe it's just going to take a little time to get there. And unfortunately, sometimes at Texas, time is not something you get. But I also don't know if we can completely condemn the Sarkisian era after just 22 games. But some strides need to be made in a more forward direction. But Said, you brought it up. Let's talk about the quarterback position. Quinn Ewers came in, five-star recruit, 5-star transfer. Played really well at the beginning of the season. That was the Alabama game. He was spectacular before he got hurt, and then came in the Oklahoma game and shredded the Sooners and endeared himself to a lot of fans. But since then, he struggled against TCU. 17-39 for 171 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick, under 45% completion percentage in 2 of his last 3 games, under 200 passing yards in 3 of his last 4 games since the Oklahoma game. And granted, that may not all be his fault because of play calling, et cetera, et cetera. But Quinn has not played well. I think he would tell you that. I think all of us watching would tell you that. So I guess the same question: how much patience should Texas fans have with Quinn Ewers? He is a redshirt freshman. We may have put too much on his plate, just thinking he was going to be the next Colt McCoy right off the bat. But should Texas fans be patient, or is it time to start beating that Hudson Card, Malik Murphy, Charles Wright, maybe Ben Ballard, even if you're a Hyde Park football fan? It's time to start beating those drums and see what else is on that depth chart. Seth, we'll start with you on this one because you wrote about it after the game on Saturday.
I really think the portal is a scary thing. And if there wasn't a transfer portal, he could be a lot more liberal with his decisions. And he could conceivably go with Hudson Card and not worry about the fallout right now. Kid can enter the portal as I'm speaking. So I don't know how much that has to do with it. He's 7 starts. He's young. And I would be more patient with him if I didn't have a guy in the background who's shown that he can play the position. I think the last time we saw Hudson in a start, it was West Virginia, 21 of 27, 303 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and a big time scramble on 1 foot, basically, just showing that he is ready when called upon. So if it's me, the leash is really short in Lawrence. And if he continues to miss out on easy throws, I go to Hudson Card. What more should be said? Hudson Card can play. Is he Johnny Unitas? No. But he hasn't had a game where he completed. He hasn't had a 45% completion percentage stretch ever in his career. He's a lot more accurate than Quinn at this point.
It just seems to be such a disconnect. I mean, Danny, you mentioned the OU game since then. I mean, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, like 49% completion rate. You hate to say it, but he almost seems to be regressing. And I don't think any of us are talking demoting him, benching him. It's like using what you have. And Hudson Card, like you said he looked great against West Virginia. He beat West Virginia, he beat Iowa State. He did all he could in Texas Tech to win that game. He had that last drive. We were all on the sidelines, Danny and I, and well, he just took him down the field, and Bert Auburn kicked the tying field goal, and Bijan fumbles on the first play of overtime. I think they're going to win that game. So, he could have gone 3-0 in those starts, and he played well enough against Alabama the final 3 quarters to keep them in it. And again, took a miraculous last minute drive for Alabama to pull that one out. So it's like, nobody's saying Quinn Ewers is done. He's a bust. He's finished, and clearly he's not the finished product. So I think he's doing a disservice to the rest of the team, and also to Quinn maybe, because he says accurately on Mondays, it's not all Quinn's fault. Nobody's saying it is, but the quarterback has more impact and influence on an offense than any other player. Sark also knows that. So to me, the examples you mentioned are very obvious and visible. And, I remember when DJ got benched at Clemson, Dabo came out right after the game in the post-game interview on the field saying, DJ's our guy. But he was having an off day. He had 3 turnovers, so they went to Klubnik and they won the game. I think Klubnik threw 4 passes that second half. So it can be done. Nobody's trying to trash Quinn Ewers, and it's almost like he's trying to protect him too much. When I asked him Monday, how do you feel about his footwork, his reads, vision, mechanic? He's doing a nice job. He kind of just blew it off. And then when we asked Quinn, as you two know, he said, "Oh yeah, I need a lot more work on my footwork. My footwork has really gotten lazy." So which is it? So I would just say to Sark, don't protect him so much. Think more about your team than one player.
Well, Cole Hudson was struggling a couple of games ago. He lifted him off the offensive line. For me, watch your quarterback be different. I know it's the most important position on the field, but that should make it doubly important when your quarterback is struggling. He's the head of the snake, and if the head of the snake is struggling, the snake, the body of the snake's not going to do well. I mean, if I told you that they were going to give up 17 points to a team that's averaging over 500 yards a game and score a defensive touchdown, I'm like, oh my God, Texas wins by 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they lost.
And the offensive
Oh.
line didn't play well, and receivers had at least 4 drops that we counted, if not more. So there was a lot of blame to go around, but it does all start with the quarterback.
Yeah, I was not for the idea of pulling Quinn at the Oklahoma State game, just because of the circumstances. But I don't think it would have
They
been
were
the worst in
winning.
the world
They were
to
winning.
try to give them a spark on Saturday and see what Hudson could give you. I also think, Quinn, while he has not been playing good, Steve could help him a little bit with his play calling. I mean, I think all of us, were groaning audibly every single time they're, trying it deep, but that just wasn't working. Whether that was what Quinn was doing, throwing the ball, or the effort that Xavier was having with trying to track down some of those deep shots, just wasn't working. And I think Steve can call a better game plan. I think Quinn's your QB1. I think you've hitched your horse to that wagon, and you need to see where it goes. And he's your guy, going forward, and he may be the future of this program. But I think he can play better. I think Steve can call a better game plan, and the receivers and tight ends could do a little bit better tracking some balls and not dropping very easy, wide open passes. As we saw, some of those drops made me think of the times I was playing football, and I was not good at all. But let's move forward.
Oh, Grizz.
Let's talk about well, there's one game I care about, Cat Grizz, this weekend up in Bozeman. College game day is going to be there. It's a huge deal, but I know that's not why people are tuned in this game. I'm paid to care about Texas, Kansas this weekend, which will be Saturday at 2:30 p.m. up in Lawrence. It'll be on FS1. Me and Cedric will be there. Michaela Compton will be photographing the game. I can't speak English for us, and so we'll have full coverage there. But let's talk right about it. We'll talk about this in a couple of seconds when you guys give your on second thought teas. But Lance Leipold, Big 12 Coach of the Year, or is that Sonny Dykes? I mean, who are we giving this Big 12 Coach of the Year award? Because TCU's undefeated, but raise your hand if you had Kansas at 6-4 at this time this season.
Yeah, right.
Sonny D is the coach of the year in the Big 12, and he's the coach of the year in college football. And he was the guest on last week's On Second Thought. Man, Duck, we're getting every coach in the Big 12 on our podcast except, okay, go ahead.
We had him in August.
We did have him. We did have him in August. We'll take him.
Yeah. So you think it's clear it's Sonny. Boy, the job Lance has done, that's a forlorn program, maybe the worst program in the country, historically, traditionally. And for them, they were picked last in the Big 12. And TCU was picked 7th, but I'll just put it this way. Max Duggan on Saturday was making his 38th start. And again, Quinn making 7, big difference there. And they had 18 starters back at TCU. I remember us talking in August, and I said, they're just kind of a mystery team to me. I don't know how good they're going to be. They got a lot of experience, and Sonny's done a great job. And, he's the first year coach in Big 12 history to start out 10-0. That's pretty impressive. And they're 5-0 against ranked teams. The only other team that's done that is Tennessee. So, man, if anytime you could have a co-coach of the year, I think it'd be this one. But you're right. To me, those two are both up for coach of the year, right up there with maybe Josh Heupel at Tennessee.
Leipold came from nowhere. He brought him from nowhere, and I know I love me some Sonny D, but I'm looking at it in totality. You got to give it to the guy that came from the bottom. And where would they be if they had Jalen, their starting quarterback? Who may play this week? I don't know.
He practiced yesterday.
Practicing, dog. He's practicing.
One person we do expect to see is Devin Neal, the great Kansas running back, who Texas fans should remember for all the damage he did last year in Austin in that 57-56 victory. There's some good running backs in this Big 12 conference. Obviously, Texas fans don't need to be reminded of the two they have in their backfield, but where do you kind of rank Devin in this long list that includes, obviously the two at Texas? You got two at Texas Tech that are really good. Kendra Miller at TCU this past weekend is spectacular. there's a list
Deuce,
of Texas. Deuce
Deuce.
Vaughn. I mean, I don't know how I didn't remember to say Deuce Vaughn. Where does Devin Neal kind of rank in this list of good Big 12 running backs? Does he even make the all conference team? There's so many good running backs.
He ain't
Probably
making it.
not.
He's
Probably
not
not.
making it. Nope.
No, I mean the best two to me are Bijan and Kendry Miller. I mean they're the two elite, and Devin Neal is an awesome guy. Eric Gray at Oklahoma's having a great year.
Forgot about him.
Richard Reese at Baylor. I mean they're loaded with great running backs. But I'm on the All-American panel, and we picked our offense this coming Sunday, and I'm going to be pushing like hell to get Bijan on there. I shouldn't have to push.
He's the best running back in the country.
116 yards. He and Blake Corum. I mean, Blake Corum for Michigan.
Yeah, he's been great. He's
going
been
to be
great.
a no-brainer too. But Devin Neal's a very good back, and with the way they use the option, they're going to see a lot of him. We talked about Bijan only getting 12 touches, against TCU. No targets in the passing game. What's up with that? I mean, he's the guy with the best hands. He thinks he's got the best hands. And he's such a versatile guy, genuine. Obviously, we love the guy, but I'd probably say Devin Neal's top 4, but not top 2.
Top 4. So who are you? So Bijan, Kendra,
and then I'd probably put Deuce Vaughn
third, and then Devin fourth.
Probably Devin Neal, and then Eric Gray. Those 5 probably.
That sounds right. It sounds about right.
Who you got, Danny?
Obviously, I think Bijan's number 1, and I don't think that's just us with our burnt orange glasses on. I think he is just a spectacular talent, and if he's able, I think part of the problem last year is he just got hurt early, so he couldn't go the distance with the Abram Smiths, and Deuce had a great year last year as well. But I think Bijan, once all said and done, will be the clear-cut number 1 on that all-conference team. And then I think Kendra and Deuce can just battle it out in the Big 12 championship game. Winner gets that second spot, since I think TCU and Kansas State will probably be booking those 2 spots. But I would take, if I can get Bijan, I will take either Kendra or Deuce. And be very, very happy with having that player as my star running back. Oh, let's talk about.
I'm gonna tell you, Daniel, before you go on that, Kendra Miller off right tackle. Oh my God, he exploded. I didn't know he was that fast.
He's tough too. He moves the pile, doesn't he?
And he ran past 4 legitimate 4.5 and faster guys in that Texas secondary. I mean, I was like, he just became a first or second round draft pick with that run eventually. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, he's bigger. He is bigger than Bijan Robinson. He's 6 pounds heavier. And he hit that hole. I was like, wow. I didn't know. Because I hadn't seen him. I didn't know.
Yeah, he's solid.
That was probably, I mean, there were 2 bad plays by the defense in that TCU game. That was one of them, the 75-yard run by Kendra Miller. But as a whole, this Texas defense played spectacular on Saturday. Looking forward to this Kansas game. Kansas is a top 20 scoring offense. They run the option, a little bit of a different look. But coming off the defensive performance, Kirk, we'll start with you. Which Texas defensive player are you keeping your eye on? Who do you want to see in Lawrence on Saturday?
I want to see more of Baron Sorrell. I mean, that guy is lighting it up, and he's had a really good year, and he just seems to be getting better and better. And we were looking at him yesterday when they brought him to a Monday press conference for the first time this year. Boy, what a frame he's got. He almost looks like a power forward.
The man.
Basketball. And I even asked him in our availability, you seem like you're playing angry. And he said, yeah, I try to play that way every game. And I just been thoroughly impressed with him, and he's going to be a star next year. He's really impressive. And I'm looking to see how they do against the Kansas team that runs the hell out of the option. And that's going to be a upfront battle, that line of scrimmage war. So he's a guy I'm kind of focusing on.
I love me some Jalen Ford. Gives us really thoughtful answers every Monday when we talk to him. He's a football mind, and linebackers are always tested when it comes to the option. Assignment football is a little bit more difficult than just reactionary football. You have to take that little split second and diagnose what's coming at you, and so I'm looking forward to see what kind of impact that Jalen makes. in that backfield. The one thing he told us, he goes, they throw out of that option. They throw out of that option more than most option teams. So that's going to have them. Texas have to be on his P's and Q's, and I count him as the biggest playmaker on the team. I really think besides Bijan Robinson, he's the best football player on their team, and that's a team of some pretty good football players. So I'll be watching 41 for sure.
I think arguably the biggest playmaker on the defense is Mr. Jade Barron, the
Yes,
pride of
sir.
Connolly
Yes, sir.
High School. I'll pick him. 2 touchdowns this year, which is actually one more than Jordan Whittington somehow. He's 3 in his career. Also scored off a blocked punt in the Texas Tech game a couple years ago. So he somehow, as a defensive back, just has a nose for the end zone. And at that nickel star, whatever they call it, position, they're going to need him again on Saturday to help kind of slow down this Kansas defense. But obviously Barron and Jalen are 2 fine picks, and there's a lot of guys who've stood out on this defense who may not have been the guys we figured who at the beginning of the season who have still played well. DeMarvion's been great, Keandre's been good, but there's been other guys in this defense who have stepped up, which has really helped them.
Ovi
turn the
Ogbuffo
table.
has really impressed me. He's really stepped up his game. You're right, Danny.
Kirk will not be in Lawrence this weekend. He will be back here in Austin, and as we kind of go over what else is going on in the 40 acres, he'll actually be at the Texas volleyball game on Saturday night. They're number 1 Texas, number 15 Baylor. It'll be senior night for the Longhorns, so you'll get a safe farewell to Logan Eggleston. You'll get a safe farewell to Zoe Fleck, some other names. It won't be their final home game because the postseason's coming up. This will be their final regular season game, and those ladies will get some love. Texas also plays Kansas, another Texas-Kansas matchup on Wednesday night. That's 6 p.m. At 8:30 p.m., head on over to the Moody Center. Texas versus Gonzaga, 2 versus 11. Big basketball matchup. Kirk, you're going to be at that one too. So you're just getting all these ranked showdowns over on campus. Women's basketball, they will be in the Bahamas this week, and unfortunately, I don't get to go to that one. I'm going to Kansas instead. I think I lost out with those travel plans. Texas played UConn on Monday, didn't have Rory Harmon, lost by 7 points to number 5 UConn. We'll see if they can hold on to their number 3 ranking. Texas soccer at Duke on Friday, second round of the NCAA tournament. Also, cross country men's and women are both at the NCAA meet this weekend. We mentioned it earlier on second thought. Do y'all want to give us a little bit more of a tease, or is this all Lance all the time?
It's going to be Lance Leipold. We're going to have a Bijan Robinson segment because me and you had a nice kind of a fun exchange with Bijan. You asked him a question, he answered it, and I made him laugh. So we're going to play that clip for our listeners. We just love Bijan. We do. If we had daughters, we'd want her to bring home Bijan Robinson. Yeah, because he would pull up in a Lamborghini. That would be nice.
Yeah, and you mentioned the women. I don't know if y'all watched the women last night, but they hung tough with them, and UConn got them on fast break point. I think it was 14-2, but none in the second half. So obviously Vic, cracked down on them. But Taylor Jordan and Sonia Morris are 2 really good transfer players they have.
They'll be fine if Rory's playing.
Get Rory back.
If Rory's playing.
Sonia back in that backcourt. They've got something there. So
and Vic will be smart. If he's got to sit Rory, if she's got a broken toe, and I don't know, if she's got a broken toe, and I broke mine in 2016, and I sat for 6 weeks in a boot. But then I came back. So 6 weeks is nothing. Is nothing in college basketball. The real games don't start for a while, so he'll be very smart with his best player, Rory Harmon. He'll be smart with her.
And just for the record, it's Taylor Jones, the Oregon State transfer. But you are correct. Texas, in the last 2 years under Vic, their November product is not the same as their March product. And if you're a Texas basketball fan, you care more about what's happening in March. And lucky with someone like Rory, she knows the offense. She knows how to play defense for Vic. So if she's a little bit behind schedule and doesn't get to play in full speed for a couple of weeks, she'll be fine. We know what we have in Rory Harmon, and that's not a problem. I think the bigger issue is getting the other players kind of in the system and getting them used to this brand of Texas basketball. And I think by the time conference play starts, this Texas team, they may take some lumps early. They may, this Bahamas tournament's not going to be a joke, and they do have some good non-conference games coming up, but I think they'll be fine. Before we get out of here, do you have any thoughts on the men's game on Wednesday? Obviously, a big test for Chris Beard and his squad early on.
Well, Gonzaga's 1-0 on aircraft carriers and 2-0 on the season. Everybody's going to want to look for Drew Timme, the Metroplex guy who escaped the state, and
he's gonna. They'll be
Texas
fine. He only scored 37 last year against them.
Yeah, hopefully they can hold him to 36, hopefully. But the one thing, Gonzaga doesn't have the great guards like they used to. You don't see a Jalen Suggs out there. I mean, Nolan Hickman, he had like 4 turnovers and 1 assist against Michigan State. So that may be, probably the biggest advantage Texas might have, but they won't have an answer for Drew Timme. So just hopefully that'll be a really entertaining, competitive game.
Sorry, I was on mute. That's going to do it for us. We appreciate you all watching this video or listening to this podcast. Please check us out throughout the week on statesman.com as we get you ready for the Kansas game. Be sure to check out us on Saturday night, Sunday morning, as Kirk is, writing about volleyball. Me and Seth are writing about the football team. And obviously, we will be here next week to get you ready for the Baylor game, get you ready for Thanksgiving, get you ready for, I guess, whatever you need to be getting ready for. And so we're going to sign off here. For Kirk, for Seth, I'm Danny. Go Grizz. We'll see you all next week.